Recording in progress.
Hello, Solo of the Month. Today is July 19th, and we are working on the CPE Bach Hamburger Sonata, second movement Rondo. I'm your host, Matthew Allison, and I look forward to practicing flute together. Let's start with a warm-up, and we're going to be working on some intonation today, and I'll talk about why in just a second. But one of my favorite things to practice with intonation is focusing on the facial movement, lip bends or pitch bends. So we're going to start by finding a note in tune and then bend the note flat. And for me, it's as if I'm going, yaw, and I get the biggest sad clown face. I would like to invite you to keep your dynamic and your airstream essentially neutral, because what we're going to be doing is applying this to different dynamics and to releases where our air pressure changes. So yes, you can affect your intonation with different changes throughout the body, air pressure, and stuff like that. Right now, I want you to focus on the embouchure and the facial expression. So I'm going to start with a G and simply find my G in tune. And I've got my TE Tuner app facing you all, so hopefully it also hears me. Okay, now that I know about where my face needs to be for a neutral G, I'm going to bend the flute pitch flat and then fix it. That's a lot of F's for me to say.
We lost his feed.
Well, Sean, I guess you're up.
We lost you, Matthew.
Oh no!
Yeah, you froze for that entire time you were playing.
Is it back yet?
You're back.
Okay. Yeah, so I have had some internet issues and the repair tech is coming on Monday. So if that happens again, please continue without me. Hopefully the meeting won't log out or anything like that. Okay. So I'm going to find my G in tune, bend it flat by going, ooh, sad clown face, and then bring it back to pitch. Go and try that on your own. If you have a tuner handy, it's a great reference point. We want to train our ear to hear the in tune as the beginning and ends for sure. And now the opposite, starting in tune, bending the pitch sharp, and then bringing it back to in tune. And for me, I think, ooh, like my teeth come slightly forward, my lips go slightly back, but without tension, to help angle the airstream higher. And did you notice how I'm not getting louder to raise the pitch? I'm just keeping the dynamic about neutral. So right now my focus is on bending the pitch down and up. Try that. Ooh. And we'll stick with this exercise. Normally I would go up a scale, but for now let's just take the G major arpeggio since we're about to play in G. So the next note would be D. Find it centered. Work on bending it back and then bending it down and then correcting. Bending it up and then correcting. And I said the G major arpeggio, but I skipped the B natural, didn't I? That's okay. We're going to go ahead and go on to the next G at the octave. Finding it centered. Bending it down. Ooh. Bending it up. Ooh. Let's take the B above that. Bending it down and correcting. Bending it up and correcting. Then the D above that. Bend down and correct. Bending it up and correct. So my goal with this is to find movement in my embouchure that feels natural. So I don't like to talk to jaw shifts specifically because when I was a younger student, when my teachers talked about jaw shifting, I took everything they said to be so strict, and then I actually developed jaw tension and TMJ pain and stuff like that. But speaking words, ooh, like we can think of those vowel shapes, we can think of the consonants and the different sizes and shapes that we create in our mouth, do feel a little bit more natural because of the way that we use our mouths on a regular non-flute basis. So those of you who are trying that at home, what are some things that you noticed with that? Would anybody like to demonstrate?
I always notice when I do that it's harder to get sharp.
It's harder to get sharp. Yeah. Did anybody else feel like it's harder to get sharp and it's easier to bend flat? For many flute players, that is the case. And here's one thing to consider. A, try it more. But B, we might need to compromise on your normal embouchure and then head joint placement too, to have your normal embouchure be slightly flatter. So that way you can bend up and down the same amount. And that was a change that I had to make at some point in my career, where it was so easy to go flat, but it was really hard to, well, not go flat, to be perfectly honest, at the end of my pitches. So I started playing with a slightly flatter embouchure as my normal embouchure. I could still bend down 18, 20 cents, but then I was able to bend the pitch up 10, 15 cents kind of a thing. So big embouchure changes like that take a lot of dedication, and I'm not saying that's what needs to happen, Elizabeth, but it is something to consider. So first, try just exploring other vowel shapes to send the airstream up even higher, and then if it doesn't seem like you're getting to get the lift that you want in pitch, then maybe the what's going to need to happen is a slightly more relaxed embouchure as your neutral embouchure. Does that make sense?
Mm-hmm. This is Cheryl on the other end. Cheryl, good night. I came in late, and that is a very interesting comment that you made about the flatter embouchure. When you're talking about the flatter embouchure, are you speaking basically about lowering the flute on the lip more, or just flattening the lower lip?
It could be one of, and so virtually, without me being up close and personal, I don't specifically know. For a lot of people, it's just having less tension in the bottom corners of the lips, having it be a little bit poutier in general, but it could also be shifting where the flute fits on the face. For me, the flute fitting on the face is going to be where the tone is centered, and then the shape of the bottom lip is going to be where I would probably spend more time focusing where that central pitch will be. And then, of course, as you get the bottom lip to be flatter, you might need to push your head joint in slightly more for your normal playing in order for it to be there. But mostly I'm talking about those bottom corners of the lips, Cheryl.
Yeah. And another thing, talking about pushing the flute in, I was always taught in my latter high school years when I started studying with a college professor, I had my head joint too far out and it was still going sharp. And she said, well, there's something wrong there. So she had me lower it on the lip, which that took a little bit of getting used to. And so I found like that I did better ultimately with pulling out the 1/8 of an inch. And sometimes I have to even push in even a little more than an 1/8 of an inch. I have an overbite.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and so each of our mouth structures is going to change the way we set up the embouchure. Yeah, and so what was the result of that then, Cheryl? Did it feel better?
Ultimately, it did. I knew the concept of tone I had, but also someone in a workshop, I asked about what is a reference point on your embouchure where you can put the edge of the blowhole that goes toward you. So I try the part of the blowhole that goes toward our body, I try to line that up with the mark of the lip.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, great feedback. Any other thoughts from the from everybody out there in the cyber world of flute?
And also, like I said, look.
Go ahead, Cheryl. Let's see. So Elizabeth, so yes, a bit less smile might be exactly what we're talking about, keeping that just a little bit more supple in the bottom lip as your normal playing style. So that way you still have some room to bend up when you need to and bend down.
Of course, we can cover too much of the hole.
We absolutely can, yeah. Generally speaking, I just try to make sure that the hole is touching the bottom of my lip, covering maybe up to 1/3 of it. But there's different tone colors that people like. One of my teachers was French school inspired, who liked the head joint pushed in pretty far, and then the flute rolled in towards you, and then you blew really hard at the flute. And another one of my teachers was a New York flute player who said the saying in New York was roll out, pull out, and he had his flute pulled out like a half an inch and rolled really far out, and his tone was really open, which in lessons I thought always sounded really spread, but when I was in the audience in the 40th row, I always thought it sounded really good. So there are other considerations that we have to consider when we're deciding on that placement as well.
When you use the word his tone was spread, what do you mean by that?
Yeah, I mean, I just thought in a small room, it sounded airy. It sounded just
Yeah.
really open, but it projected wonderfully in a larger in a larger setting. So we have to also consider where we're playing and how we want to sound in those
Sure.
places.
Plus, when you think about the dip in your chin, that and the little mark on your lower lip, if the flute just naturally fits there, that's generally a pretty good, I found, placement for it.
Yeah, yeah, great. Any other thoughts? So with this exercise, since we're keeping the dynamic and the airstream essentially stable and just affecting the pitch, then we get to apply this to other things where the dynamic changes. Oftentimes when we're playing loud or high, our intonation tendencies tend to go up. And so when we're playing loud or high, we might want to start to train ourselves to feel that more extra down shape. Conversely, when we're playing soft or low, it's oftentimes going flat on the flute, and we might need to imagine that we're doing some kind of lip embouchure pitch bend up as we're doing those decrescendos. And this is going to be especially important on every note that we release. Has anybody out there noticed that when they release a note, they go flat? So few head nods, really? Okay, it's the kind of the flute tendency is that when we're ending a phrase, we go flat, right? So let's do just one more exercise. We're going to do terraced dynamics. So with terraced dynamics, we're going to think 4 different dynamics. First dynamic, we're going to think forte. And we're going to go as flat pitch bend down as we can with the forte, so that way we sound in tune. Second note, exact same pitch, we're going to play mezzo forte, and we're going to think slightly flatter than our neutral embouchure. Third note will be mezzo piano, slightly sharper, slightly more ooh or up or forward, or however you want to think of the airstream as lifting a bit more. And then the fourth note we play is going to be piano, and that's where we're going to think the same shape of our face that we did the pitch bend up. So this is to apply those pitch bend shapes to the note. Now our goal is to keep the pitch absolutely centered at all 4 dynamics. So my forte G, pitch bend down. Oh, too far. Mezzo forte G. Mezzo piano, more of a ooh up shape. And then piano. And then I put it together with the decrescendo going, ah. And if you've been in these classes with me before, you may have heard me say tomato soup, ah, and imagining that you're ending with the oop of the soup without getting to the P. Go and try that on your own, doing the forte, mezzo piano Gs, trying to keep it in tune, but thinking of those pitch bend shapes that you had in your face when you did it earlier.
I love these intonation warm-ups you have.
Thank you. All right, let's go ahead and try it together on a B. We'll do the 4 separate terraces or steps. Forte, B natural. Mezzo forte. Mezzo piano. And piano. And decrescendo, ah to ooh. I went a little flat at the end. I should oop a little bit more. Normally, then I would just do it again. But for now, since we're together, D, forte. Mezzo. Mezzo piano. And piano. And decrescendo. the octave G forte, mezzo forte, mezzo piano, piano, decrescendo. Keeping the core muscles supported, especially as you begin to release. All right, so we've done an octave of the G major arpeggio. How is that feeling applying the pitch bends with using the lip pitch bends to your dynamics? Did that work for anybody? I know it's day one, right? It's not gonna be miracle overnight, but how's that feeling for those of you out there who are trying it? Okay,
Interesting.
interesting.
Yeah.
I think it's a great idea because it would.
Go ahead, Cheryl.
I was listening to that. Okay, excuse me. What I was saying is that I think it's a great idea. You thinking of the direction of the air and the vowel shapes. It's a great approach rather than worrying about your jaw, trying to move your jaw forward and back, because that, like you said, can build jaw tension and neck tension.
Yeah, yeah. So generally more of an ah, ah with the corners down, and then more of a like a EU forward. Imagining my nose beak growing forward. And so in the CPE Bach that we're working on, so I like to practice away from the music as much as possible. When I was a student and even a younger professional, I have mentioned before that like I was always told intonation would be what kept me from having a career in music. And I was in my head about it, and so I was panicked about it. And when you're in your head about something, it never gets better, right? And I would always try to practice intonation directly with the repertoire that I was working on, because my teacher would say that high E is sharp or that whatever is flat, and then I would just try to work directly in the repertoire. And then I began to associate all of those tensions with the repertoire that I was playing. And so now I have found that for me to separate those parts of learning from each other really keep me from then bringing in fear or tension into the music itself. But it's still good to apply some of these concepts directly. So in the CPE, this rondo movement, if you are thinking of a little bit of growth between the repeated Gs like we talked about, you might think about slightly changing the embouchure to like just opening it a little bit more as you crescendo. But the part that I really want to work on today are some of those descending leaps. So for example, and I'm going to go ahead and look at the very beginning, the first two measures of the rondo movement. We have the D, B, G, 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 D, and I'm noticing that that D release is oftentimes quite flat, right? Has anybody noticed that in their own playing? So if I do no effect at all, it goes a bit too flat on that D. So I'm going to bring my tuner back, and I'm going to think about that G as being more of an aw, and then the releasing D as having a little bit more of that upward ooh shape. The tuner's barely there. And I'm overcompensating, and right now I'm going to let myself get away with overcompensating to lift the pitch on the D. That same teacher who used to say roll out, pull out, he said in New York there was also saying it's better to play sharp than out of tune. I don't know, I live in a cornfield in the Midwest, so I don't know if those kinds of philosophies still exist in the major performing cities or not. But so yeah, if you can think a little bit of a lift at the end of that GD. So do ta ta ta. What are the notes? I forgot. And so on and so forth. So working on lifting up some of those releases just by allowing the teeth to go a little bit more of a ooh shape, or the mouth to go to a little bit more ooh shape. How's that feel? Sean, better sharp than out of tune has been around. Yep, I'm sure these sayings have definitely been around for a while. I appreciate all of the things that I've learned from other generations of flute players, and the world is changing, but music is still repeating. We're still playing music by CPE Bach, right? Okay, doke. So I think that intonation warm up is something that's really great for us flute players to practice when we have the opportunity to. I like for it to be some amount of it to be part of my daily practice, so that way I have the confidence that my face can move without tension. Right? Any questions around that thought, or the intonation practice, or how you might apply it to this piece?
One of the things about intonation that I listen to all kind of videos and stuff like that. I just got through listening to Chelsea Tanner's video on YouTube. It's really quite good on fundamentals of flute playing, where she talks about the analogy of the water hose. And one of the things that she mentioned was in the high register that we use less air, but it's really got to be fast. And of course, the hole is smaller for the air to go through. Like says you're squeezing the water hose. And that always helped me keep the air going in the high register. And the low register, we're using, in a way, more air, but it's slower and more relaxed.
Great. Yeah, the water hose analogy has also been around forever. If you if you can imagine like putting your thumb over the water hose, and the more that you cover, the further out and faster that water stream goes. You're not changing anything from the spigot or from the faucet or whatever you call it, but it does kind of get that little bit more lift in the water, a little bit higher direction, a little bit faster water, but it's smaller. So that is always a great analogy, and a lot of that can be done with the size of your aperture, the hole of your lips. A little bit more of a compressed aperture is, of course, going to speed the air up without having to change anything from the source of the air.
Plus, I think your idea of the vowels and raising the air sharper, that's going to help too.
Yeah. Great, thanks. And Cheryl, I always appreciate, because you have such amazing pitch too. So
thank you.
If there's a compliment from you, then
Well, I think the way you explain and deliver things is great. It makes you put it into a very practical perspective.
Well, I'm a very simple man, so maybe it's that.
I like that.
All right. Any other thoughts or questions around here? And yes, Elizabeth, descending leaps do tend to be a place. There's another exercise I really like to practice because of descending leaps. Harmonics, of course, but the drawn octaves. And there's a video on my YouTube that talks about drawn octaves or octave smears. And if you watch, there's two on there. If you watch, one of them is made in 2005. And so there's like little baby Matthew essentially teaching a class about extended techniques. We tend to, as flute players, back off our airstream to accommodate descending leaps. And a lot of that is because of fear of cracking. And so the drawn octaves exercise really helps us build confidence that you don't have to back off the air pressure itself. We just have to find out how to manipulate it in a way. So then like your descending leaps don't have to be softer, and they don't have to be flat. They just have those tendencies, partly because of habits that we developed when we were kids playing the flute for the first time, right? And that's one of the things I love about listening to adults play flute too, is when we discover that there's something that they started doing in 8th grade and never stopped doing, even though they have matured beyond 8th grade in so many other ways. Any other thoughts? All right, wonderful. Well, let's go ahead and hear some playing out. Elizabeth, would you be willing to start us off today?
Sure. Should I play the whole thing or just part of it, or?
Play a good chunk of it, however much you'd like to start with.
Okay.
entire movement. Fantastic. What are some things that you're proud of right now?
Just for playing it. I don't
Just
know.
playing it.
Um,
That's enough. What are some things that you liked about it, though?
hmm.
Are there other things that you liked about it? It was really excellent.
Um, well, I just like over this piece a lot. It's just very perky and energetic, and um, I what did I like? Um, I just like the feelings I experienced, the good feelings I experienced when I was playing it. There were a mixture of feelings, but the good feelings that I felt were I enjoyed.
Yeah, could you explain a place where you just had a good feeling?
Just the main theme, da 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 da. I really like that part.
And what are you thinking of when you're having those good feelings in that main melody?
Um, I don't know if I'm thinking about anything in specific. It's just happy.
Just happy, yeah. Um, Excellent. Does the group at large have any positive feedback to share with Elizabeth for right now? I mean, isn't that awesome that she just played this entire movement for us? Thank you very much. You're welcome to unmute or type it into the chat.
You made it through those arpeggios from hell.
You made it through those tricky arpeggios. Yes. Bravo.
I thought it was very accurately played.
It was great articulation and good character. Do y'all have any suggestions about when you're going even at a faster tempo on how to execute those leaps of the tenths, so that you don't ultimately slow your tempo down? Of course, we can practice them sustained, da, like that, and then quarters, da, da, and change the rhythms. So do y'all have any other ideas about that so that we're not moving the jaw so much?
I was wondering, can you hear me?
Uh-huh.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay. My problem with at the end of it, the long 16th passage there is where to breathe, because I don't play, I'm trying to work up to 88, and pretty much I'm almost there, ready to put it out, because I started at 84, and then the choices in My Pianist are 84, and the next thing is 88. So there's no transition from 4, 5, 6, and 7. You just have to go to 88.
There is actually, if you
Where?
set the tempo close to where you want it, then you can swipe up and down on the screen and it will adjust it in a percentage. So that lets you kind of
Really?
fine tune the tempo.
We'll have to look for that, because
It's kind of a hidden feature. There's no real control for it. But if you
I
swipe
know.
up and down on the screen, it'll adjust
Oh,
the
that's
percentage
interesting.
relative to the tempo
Okay.
you set. Just
All right. Thank you for sharing. That's very
Sure.
good. Anyway,
and
my
Joe,
problem with
that's
that, my thing is where to breathe, because I'm at 88 now. I'm doing it at 88. I'm getting ready to put it out, but my problem is in that long passage where to breathe. Now I noticed when you were playing it, not Matthew, you hesitated just a little tiny bit on the low note of the interval, the first note of the interval, where you go from, I don't know, there's an E to a high E, so it's an octave leap. And you took it a little bit easier on the first note, and you breathe. That's where you breathe, right there. As often as you needed to, but that's what it seems to me you were doing. Am I correct? I'm not sure.
I'm not breathing after in between the octave E's, but I am doing the lower E.
You were emphasizing the lower E.
Yeah, so when I
But there was a breath someplace in there, and I thought it was at a low
depending
note.
on what speed I was taking breaths in that section. If you're talking about 136 or so.
Yeah, in there.
Yeah, but in general, if there's an ascending leap, I put a little pressure on the lower note. Imagine like a
Right.
trampoline or
I heard that.
Yeah.
But so is that, for my problem is I'm only playing it at 88, so I can't make it all the way through without
You
breathing.
might have to omit a note or figure out a way to do that.
Well, I've heard of that. Just leave a note out
Sure.
and breathe in the low note.
Yeah.
Is that a legitimate thing to do or not?
Sure. Musicians leave notes out all the time.
Oh, well, that's nice to know. I learned two things.
So you got to do what you got to do to make it sound as good as you can make it sound at whatever tempo that you're playing it at, for sure.
Okay, so it is legitimate to leave a note out because that's what I would do. I have tried that and that works.
And
But
then also, if you watched the video that I just posted yesterday where I was working on extending my confidence in my breath, you
I
might
did
try to do
hear that.
too, where you start at the end and progressively add a measure or two measures. But it's very true that at certain tempos, you won't be able to make the phrase the way that you want it to, and so you
Right.
have to make some kind of when you compromise the tempo, you oftentimes have to compromise somewhere else also.
Right, because I can only play it. 88 will be my top speed for this.
We can
So,
all only do what we do, and
Yeah.
it'll be fine that way too. And then Cheryl, I'll talk about those intervals here in just another second, but I want to get back to Elizabeth since she was
Sure.
who just demonstrated so amazingly. Elizabeth,
was great.
were there any concerns that you had, or that things that you want to talk about related to what you just played, or your general feeling around this piece?
A couple things. Measure 28, that major leap there of more than an octave, that always kind of gets me.
Yeah, and that's what Cheryl was just asking about too. So
Oh,
we can definitely talk
Okay.
about that. And anything else, Elizabeth?
yeah. It was weird because I'm not sure why, but I was really tired after I finished playing, and like my lips were really tired here, and so I don't know if I was tightening a lot more when I was playing, or if I'm not sure why that was, because I shouldn't have gotten so tired that early on. You know what I mean? I haven't been playing that much today, so I don't know why I was tired.
Once we have different stimulation come into our practice or into our playing, in this case it could be excitement or nerves because you're playing for a group of people that you don't know, our body changes. And the more we do it, the more we're aware of how it changes and how to maybe control those changes or how to accept those changes and play around it. So it could simply, if you were feeling additional tightness, it could just be a little tension from the adrenaline of playing in front of us all, right? And maybe along those lines, the only thing that I noticed that I want to just talk about is some of the repeated pitches. The tone wasn't always centered, and it could have been because you were more tight than normal. Did you notice that on some of those notes?
I noticed it on like the 16th notes. Is that what you're talking about, or just the repeated notes?
Yeah, I'm actually thinking about the eighth note. Some of them came across as having, they were all there, they were all present. It was clear what pitch you were playing, but some of them had more focus, more clear tone than others
Okay.
did.
Yeah.
And so I would love to just see if we could take a second and take some of those repeated notes without tongue. Do you ever practice tongueless articulation, ab bursts, ab kicks, or any of those things? They're all the same thing, but with different names.
Not really, actually. So
So let's take the slurs out for a second. We'll just play that opening phrase. Just breath attack. So 16th notes, go ahead and slur for now. But everything that's not a 16th, no tongue, just like. In fact, before we play it, let's just try it like a G. Good. So one of the reasons I like this is because it's harder for the embouchure to make those corrections. When we tongue, it becomes a little bit easier. So kind of like why we do Pilates or yoga or whatever your exercise of choice is, we're going to make it slightly more difficult for the embouchure so it learns to do a little bit more work without adding any tension in. And then when you add the tongue and the slurs back in, hopefully it feels easy. So let's try the first two phrases where all of the chord notes and eighth notes you breath attack or you ab burst or however you want to talk about it. Yeah, and for now, go ahead and slur the 16ths. Just to make
okay.
life a little easier. Yeah, let's hear the next phrase too. just those G's again.
Wait, the repeated high G's?
G, 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 D. Yep. Ha, ha, ha. Good. And now let's do the same thing and add the tongue in. And hopefully the lips have gotten just a little bit more used to what they're going to do. Fantastic. Every single note sounded much more clear to me. Did you notice any difference even in just that one practice of it?
Yeah. Of course, I was trying to be more aware of it too.
Well, and that's another thing. Sometimes just being aware is all it takes. What was the old saying, like, knowing is half the battle or something like that? G.I. Joe? I don't know. That sounded really great. And that could be a good practice just to add into your little warm-ups to work on the tongueless articulation, those breath attacks, just to really have the lips do their little bit of Pilates of centering the tone, getting the clearest, most centered tone as possible. And then when you add the tongue back in, which makes it easier in some ways, then hopefully it feels extra easy.
Yeah.
Cool. All right, any other tips around that or any other thoughts? All right, and now let's talk about those large intervals, since you brought it up and so did Cheryl. Sorry, I was looking for this handout I made about harmonics, but I don't know if I've got it handy. One of the exercises that I love for intervals, of course, harmonics, and the drawn intervals. I'm a fan. I have like an exercise for everything. My students make fun of me. Like, of course, there's an exercise for that. But again, if you can practice things away from the music to make life easier, then do. At the end of the tone development through interpretation book, or however it's called, there are some exercises. Mine is all fallen apart, but like there's these like exercises that's all interval-y. I love that exercise. So at the end of that tone development book, the Marcel Moy's Tone Development Through Interpretation, there's some fun things. But if we just go directly to that measure, and think about some of the other exercises that are in like the De La Sonorité with the growing intervals, if we take those and just practice the different ways with these specific notes, like slur up, let's start with that one, Elizabeth. Go ahead. And so give a full low note and then slur to the upper note. And you, with making as little change to the jaw as possible. So feeling the interval inside. Good. And then we'll do the reverse where we slur down. Slur groups of 3, focusing on the low note. Repeat the B. Repeat the A. Repeat the G. And the opposite, where we focus on the high notes. Yeah, and A's and E's are always especially hard because of the they lie on those in the same harmonic. Good, and you might do it all slurred. All breath attack. and so forth. So if nothing else, you just practice that measure a few different ways, and your mind was always active because each way was a little differently. But let's just go back to the measure and see how it feels now. I'd buy that. I heard every note. How'd it feel?
Yeah, it felt a little easier.
Felt a little easier? So
Yeah.
sometimes make things a little bit harder in your practice, so that way when you come to your performance, it feels a little bit easier. Yeah.
Yeah.
All right, we have such an informative and smart group out here. Any other thoughts for that measure, measure 28, of ways that you would practice that?
Those are great ideas. Really good.
I know I need to spend some more time on that bar myself, but what I'm finding for me is my natural embouchure placement is very different in the top register and the bottom register. So I need to find some middle ground that works for both to minimize the embouchure movement, right? That's the suppleness that Moise keeps talking about, right? Keep the smooth and slight transitions between the embouchure placements.
Yeah. And are there ways that you like to practice that, Sean?
I'll let you know when I figure it out.
So one of the exercises, again, there's an exercise for everything, right? One of the
Right.
exercises that I love that works on exactly that, I think it's a Kincaid exercise. I'm not really sure though, which is the drawn octaves. I was talking about it earlier. And the drawn octaves, you start with a low note and then you blow to the octave, but you try to stop halfway between. So for example, if I were to take an A, trying to stop halfway in a tree now, get a really distorted sound. Where both octaves are kind of present. And if you linger in that little world for a while, then it makes it a lot easier to go between the octaves with less movement of the face. And so the exercise that I do is pure, like low note, high note, low, smear up, take a breath, high note, dip down into that gritty sound, and then fix it. And that's also helpful if you've got notes just above the staff that tend to crack on the lower side. But once we begin to gain that confidence, then we can do the descending intervals by not backing off the air pressure quite as much as we normally do, because we've gained that confidence. And of course, harmonics are really great for things like that too.
Could you demonstrate just that one more time, the routine?
The drawn octaves.
Yeah,
So
drawn
step one
octaves.
for me. Step two. Step three. And you can do it on all of the notes where the fingers don't change. So from E to C sharp. And if you do all of them, then you're going to have a nice little, you'll feel warmed up in that way for sure.
That is a great exercise.
Thanks, yeah. And again, I've got a video of me teaching it from when I was just a young flute player somewhere. And if I find it, I'll put it in the chat. Any other thoughts around that measure and practicing it? None right now? Let's see.
Maybe mixed articulations, mixed slurring.
Yeah, mixed slurring. And that's kind of what we did with the slur up, slur down, slur three.
Well, I was thinking about with double tonguing, maybe coups with mixing the multiple tonguing with it.
Ooh, fun, yeah. I always like to practice my second syllable of double tonguing too, because let's be real, we don't use it as often, right? So whenever I have an opportunity to practice my coups, you know, coo, 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 or whatever it might be. Plus, anytime we switch things around, our mind gets activated in a different way, and that is always so useful. Let me see, Elizabeth P. My primary adjustment would be to grow the air as I'm playing the bottom note to make the jump less drastic. And then vice versa. Yeah, so using that bottom note as a springboard or pushing into it slightly more open slightly more as I play the upper note to keep the air adjusting while playing them. Nice. Very good. Very good advice in the chat there. Any other thoughts? All right. Mary Ellen, could we hear you demonstrate some part of this?
You can see the panic in my face. Okay, I'm gonna try it with this, the microphone on the headset. Let's keep our. Can you hear me?
I can hear you just pretty faint, but let's go ahead and see how the flute works.
Even so even that didn't help, eh?
It's not much louder yet, no, but let's hear how the flute
I'm
sounds.
so
It
sorry.
might just be
I'm
great
so,
for flute.
Even you're very quiet in my. It's. I think it's this laptop, honestly, and the other one that I have doesn't work well enough for this, so it doesn't like Zoom. So I'll try. All right. So can I start from the beginning?
Sure.
Okay, because I was a little late to start working on this.
Wherever you want to start will be great.
Here, you know what? I'd like to start in the easy part where it's the minor, but that's me. It's easy for me. No. I have to deal with the jumps I hate so much. I'm sorry, I've got the choir. I'm really sorry. The choir.
They're cute. Keep going.
Okay. I'm stopping now.
Yay, bravo, 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 bravo. And to be honest, usually in these kind of classes, people just play like a section. So you did a couple section. That was awesome.
Yes.
Mary Ellen,
There's
tell
only
me a few
two of
things that
us.
you're proud of right now in your playing. Dig deep.
My attempts to stay in tune, because the intonation is, I'm not used to this flute, first of all. My old one was much easier to get things in tune out of. This one, not so much. So I'm battling that a lot. So the fact that I can still do piano at a higher octave, I impress myself sometimes with that I can stay quieter. My forte is not so forte. I need to work on that. I'm trying to remember. My old flute teacher always said to walk to look ahead, and so I'm trying to relearn to look ahead, and so in a couple of places it succeeded. Especially those long runs of 16th notes, I tend to sort of hyper focus on the one that I'm working on, and I don't look ahead at what's coming. So I faltered less in those than I usually do because I'm trying to retrain myself to look ahead.
Yeah, you succeeded more.
Exactly.
Yeah, great. And it is not uncommon for people to say that they're battling with an instrument, but I just hope that we can start thinking like, I am familiarizing myself with its tendencies, because flutes do have different tendencies. I don't think that one scale of a brand is necessarily better than another. As you all know, I switched to flute. Like I'm on a different flute like every other week. It seems like that. So each has its
Wish
own
I could.
tendencies, and it's just learning to be comfortable with that flute on that day. So don't think of it as a battle. Think of it as an opportunity to get to know that flute a little bit better, and then maybe you'll be a little bit less it'll be less resistant because it'll feel like your partner in it too, right?
Yeah.
All right, so you had a lot of good things that you talked about. And yes, you're finding more success and in reading ahead, which is a challenging thing because that means that we need to be really comfortable with what we're playing.
Yes.
You're starting to have more and more success with reading ahead again, which is great. Are there any things that you've been doing to help yourself get comfortable reading ahead?
Just basically mentally reminding myself before I start, but also I have some notations during those particular runs of 16th notes. Just look, eyeballs. I write all sorts of weird notes on my music, so I've got that's why online music I don't think is going to work for me, because I need to write all my weird little notes. Yeah, so my eyeballs and all that sort of thing, that's to remind me to look ahead. So
It is
that
a
in
little.
particular.
It is for sure harder for me to draw like eyeglasses on my Pianist app than it is for me to draw eyeglasses on my paper.
Yeah.
So I don't know if it's a me thing or a stylist thing or if it's the app itself. But yeah, I totally get that. And I think everybody out there has drawn something silly or written something silly in their music before, right? And that's
do it
actually
all the time.
good, because we don't want to like say, look ahead, silly or whatever. Like we want it to be like, hey, eyeballs, right?
Yeah, exactly.
So can you describe? Is there a place where you were noticing that you are starting to find more success in looking ahead? Would you like to look at one of those chunks?
In particular, it's like because I'm trying to break up the pieces and sort of master a certain up to a certain point first, and then I put it together, so I add. It's like dancing, where you learn a couple steps and then you add the next amount of step. Well, I'm doing the same thing here. So that's what I'm trying to do. So I've got the beginning part, with the exception of the where the harmonics need to be. As soon as you mentioned that harmonics exercise, I remembered them. I'm doing this without a teacher right now. I'm looking into getting a teacher, so it's memory from 35 years ago. So I think that's like the first chunk up to the key change is essentially what, or not the key change, but you know what I mean, is essentially what I'm looking ahead more because I'm more familiar with it.
Sure.
Okay, that's what I wanted to say.
All right, if we were to spend a few minutes as a group helping you troubleshoot one place, where would you like that to be?
You already did. The worst place for me was bar 28. I freak out every time. Bar 28.
I think that's the worst bar, or the scariest bar, or most challenging bar for all of us. And I purposely started changing the words because challenge for me is a good thing.
Challenge, yes. I also found 15, 16, 17, you know, that high D, E, that I find complicated as well, but I'm getting it. I can practice it alone. It's getting it to flow within the music. That's
Is it
my
the
problem.
technique of the grace note, or is it the air column or the air stream for the high E?
It's the airstream for the
It's
high
the airstream?
E. Yeah. Yeah.
Awesome. So what is your relationship with high E like on a normal day?
We're not friends.
How can you become friends with that?
Practicing it.
Practicing it, yeah. That's always a great option. Long tones are something that flute players really just always do, you know? And I know when I was in 8th grade and my teacher was having me do long tones, I was like, I'm going to do this for like a week and then I'm never going to have to do it again. And no, we still do it again, right? But also,
Okay.
one of the things that I do love for high notes, in addition to harmonics, are the undertone harmonic exercise, just to kind of turn our mindset upside down. So, have you done these before?
I may have.
We're going to finger the high note, in this case the high E, and we're going to purposely underblow it. So fingering high E, underblow it so you get like a really hollow but low sound, and just hold it, keep holding it, and feel the throat open, the jaw relax, the tension of that fingering melt away from your left shoulder. Because you know we have memory of that high E, and we have memories of our 8th grade band director yelling at us when we play the high E sharp, right?
Well, it's like when I sing. Okay, when I sing and I see something's coming, this tightens, and I do the same thing with the flute.
So let's see if we
I
can
feel it.
relearn that habit for you a little bit. So get that high E fingering as lazy, as loose as possible. While avoiding tensing up, let's take it to the next harmonic up. Still feeling loose, still feeling open.
Oh, sorry.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And then from there, we'll take it up to the high E feel. Get this. Let the face relax a little bit more. Try that again. And each time you do this, if you do it slowly and with that feeling of just that warm air and the lazy feeling that you invite at the beginning, you're going to also notice the pitch begins to drop on that high E, little by little by little.
Okay.
You can try it on
Why
all
do
of
I
those
have
high
a
note
different-
fingerings if you want to. But if you proceed that with that exercise, then maybe you'll begin to invite a new relationship with your high E into that phrase. Let's see, somebody typed something out. I find shifting my air to an F. For some reason, well, let me read that. Let me move this out of the way. I've got the two windows open at the same time, so I can only see a little bit at a time. Elizabeth, would you mind, could you talk about that?
Sorry. Yeah. So I find that if I put myself in the mindset of hitting an F rather than sort of that CD that tends to feel clunky when I know it's like a major with and then trying to shift to get up to that E. If I start with more of an F airstream, it's more relaxing off of it. And so I find there to get reduced tension, I think, and it becomes more comfortable and less of a, I'm trying to shift and reach for something.
And I wonder if what I'm about to describe is similar to what you're saying. I've had teachers before have me overshoot the airstream to make things easier, but also F is a more comfortable note for our minds. So instead of jumping from the low G to the E, jumping from the low G to the F, E a few times, and then beginning to gain trust in that. But just thinking F when you're fingering E, is that kind of what you're describing?
I feel like the E requires more of an F airstream, but in our heads we think it fits more with C and D, and so we tend to hit more of a CV speed and lift, and so then we're having to stretch to get to the E. But if we give more of that feel of the F airspeed wise to the E, I feel like it fits more there with the airstream prep.
Okay, yeah. So it's more about the speed of the air and the angle of the air that you're imagining like you're playing the F. Excellent. And how would you apply that to practicing that phrase?
I would say in general, I tend to just imagine more of that F space when I'm practicing something along that line. When I'm trying to hit that E, I guess I don't have a specific technical exercise or thing that I do.
Okay, great. Yeah, and so maybe as we're practicing that leap from the low G, we have a rest. Maybe we can imagine that we're playing an F first before we play that E to think of that airspeed and direction for the F before we play that troublesome E. Cool.
Another way I'd approach that is as a harmonic on A, right? Because it's in that harmonic series. So if you do, here, let me turn my sound off. Here we go. It's a little bit flat, right? But it puts your embouchure in kind of the right place. It's quick enough, you might even be able to just use it as a trill fingering and do that for the... And that would get you through that initial attack.
Yeah, and so maybe practice from the low A, go to the harmonic E. A few times. The harmonics that will get to a high E include the A fingering. It's the fifth, include the low E and the low C. So if you're specifically practicing your high E, those are the three fingerings that you can use to get the harmonic. But in this case, Sean's talking about how the A and the E are on the same harmonic. We kind of mentioned that before. And you might even use that A fingering for that grace note if the complexity of the contrary motion is slowing your brain down too. Is that summarizing it all, Sean?
Yep. Also, if you're worried about cracking up to the high A, just leave the pinky up.
Yeah.
And just hit it as hard as you can. It won't crack.
Yeah, and worry is one of our greatest challenges. We tend to get in our own way a lot of the time. So what he is saying is you can finger your high E, thumb 1 2 1 2 without the right hand pinky. It shouldn't affect any of the other notes. The pinky is mostly there for balance for most notes, but it does stabilize that high E a little bit too. Mary Ellen, do you ever play that high E without the pinky?
Yeah, I do actually. I've started doing that more recently.
Yeah, since I've been on flutes that have the split E, I guess I've done that less than I used to. But I also had I had a teacher that never liked alternative fingerings, and I had another teacher who's like, always use alternative fingerings. And I've been working with Tracy Harris a lot lately, and she says always use alternative fingerings. So, Mary Ellen, can we just try what Sean was first demonstrating, where you do the A harmonic to the E?
Yeah, it's very nice.
Good, and then take out the octave. Good, and then leave out the low A. Still using the A fingering though, the harmonic fingering. So it'll be A and then high D fingering.
Yeah.
If you do that, you'd want to use the real fingerings for the rest of the notes. But now that you've kind of gotten that high E to be a little bit warmer, try it with the real fingerings and just see how that feels. In case you decide that you want to keep the brightness of the real fingering. It's sounding good, but what we want to do sometimes when we change these practice patterns isn't necessarily to use these fingerings for practice or whatever. Sometimes all we need to do is shift where our mind is coming from. Of I hate high E to like, I've just discovered 8 ways to play high E and I can do all of them. And then you've got that little confidence in your back pocket. And sometimes that's all it takes to start to love a phrase a little bit more. All right, any other trouble shots or anything you want to talk about, Mary Ellen?
No, generally speaking, those are the two worst areas, and I am my worst enemy when I see anything over an F. Like Elizabeth was saying about look at it like with an F mindset. That's what I have to do. I always freak out when I see anything higher than an F.
Yeah. All right, so instead of saying these are the worst areas, can I invite you to say those are the places where I have the most opportunity to learn something more about my playing.
Okay. Okay.
Go for it.
Those are definitely places I have more opportunity to learn. Yeah.
Doesn't that sound so much more fun already?
Yes.
All right, excellent. Everybody, thank you so much for being a part of this day. And I want to remind you all that you are welcome to post questions or performances or anything in between. Even if you just type, I need help with measures X through Y, like let's keep this group as a place that we all learn and grow together. Next month, we will be starting the Gobert Sonata No. 1 in A, which is available on IMSLP. If you're going to purchase a printed score, I encourage you to check out FLUTEWORLD.com. Our partners at Flute World are so supportive of us, and they offer 10% off all sheet music and accessories. You can use code Allison2025 for 10% off. There is not a limit, so you can get all of your sheet music and all of your accessories, and yes, it does apply to clearance music as well. So if you're going to make any purchases, check out Flute World. They're great partners. And I sure appreciate all of you being here with us today.
Can I ask a question before we leave? Are we going to be doing the whole Gobert, or just what happened with that survey?
The admins are going to have one more discussion around that right now. I think we'll end up doing all of it, but maybe over 2 months. But we're going to have one more discussion, and I have another piece that we're going to be adding. There's a There's a composer that we're going to be doing some work with. But some other good news is Presser, the publishing company, is going to become a partner of Solo of the Month 2, and they're going to open up more of their multi-movement works for us to use one movement. So I'm in discussions with Presser right now. So hang tight. We'll for sure, no question, have the entire August. We'll have the entire month of August dedicated to the first movement of the Gobert Sonata. And the poll did have the majority of people who participated in the poll want to do all 3 movements, but the admin are going to discuss if we do movements 2 and 3 over 2 months, or if we kind of combine 2 and 3 into 1 month, or if we overlap another piece during that, which we've done in the past. In the past, we've had choose option A or B or do both of them. So
I'm for that.
I'll have a better answer for you soon.
I'm for option A or B. Thank you.
Matthew, what is your email address? Is it MatthewAllison@gmail.com?
Nope. The easiest one to find me is practiceflute1@gmail.com.
Gotcha.
Yep. All right. I'm going to quick hit end, so you don't have to hop off here. But I do want to I do want to stop the recording. I don't see that button anymore. There we go. Stop recording.